Hey guys, my name's Laura and this is my YouTube video on me doing a 4x2x2 bearded dragon enclosure. I've been super excited to do this project. For Christmas I bought myself a new enclosure to build and I bought it from Dubia.com. This is a 4x2x2. Here in this video I'm showing you how I set up the foamular boards for the backdrop. And then in the next little clip here I have the stand. I built the stand and then I was going to be able to insert the entire piece into that as one whole unit. But as I explained in the video, it didn't quite work out like that because I did not pre-measure, which usually I would. So here I am using the box to use the silicone, glue it all together, put some weight on it. That way it's going to be an insert. And I started cutting some of the other foam boards to make rock work, which I found out when I cut some of the rock work that the scraps made a really cool area where he could actually jump through to the other level or climb through if he wanted to. Here I'm just kind of laying out what I thought the design would be. So in this clip you can see I've added some of the gaps and cracks. I've also installed, glued on the little ledges that I cut out of the foam board. I actually drilled in that first piece of spider wood, not this one I glued in with the silicone and the gaps and cracks, but I actually drilled the other spiderwood piece into the side just to make sure it was really secure. This is just me showing more of the little pots I put in there. I really like plants, so of course I would have to put some desert plants in here. I've watched that Serpa design guy and I really liked all of the things he made with the bearded dragons, with the little cactus and things like that, so I made sure that I had plenty of areas where I'd be putting live plants. Of course I researched to make sure they were all edible for him. This is kind of a little cave in the back for him, and then this is where I was talking about earlier. He could climb up through that branch, through that little hole there, so he could get to the second level. So yeah, this is right before I added some more of the gaps and cracks, and then in this clip right here I'll show you. Here's where I started cutting off all of the excess of the gaps and cracks. You can also see I've burned into the purple foam a little more design to make it look more like rocks, which also made it really hard to paint later because of all the gaps inside there. This I'm showing you, actually had to take the board apart to cut it down because I failed to measure. I just did a lot of assuming, which is not usually like me. But yeah, I had to take it apart at the edge there and cut off and then re-glue it. And also had to take off some of the top, so that little pot that I'm showing you there, I actually ended up sealing over because there was no reason to have it there anymore because it was too close to the top of the enclosure. I sped this up a lot too just to make it a little quicker because it's just me showing you all the work that I did rather than showing you the whole process. But that is it for now. So in this clip, you can see I've started painting. The biggest thing with this was that I used acrylic paint mixed in the original dry lock. I had heard online on a YouTube video that if you put that Quickcrete dye in the dry lock, that can actually kill your plants. It was just one video, not sure if it's true, but this is why I chose acrylic paint. I also felt like I had more variety in color if I choose just acrylic paint. Now I've painted a lot of different things. Usually when you add black to white, you don't need much of it, but since this was dry lock, apparently, I mean, I used so much of the cheap acrylic black paint, like the craft paints. I kept having to go back to the store because I had to mix so much in it to make it work. I also added a little bit of water eventually to this mix just because it was so hard to spread. Here you can see I'm just adding some brown to it. I wanted to create it kind of modeled after that Serpa design where they start with the dark and then they go a little bit lighter. So I did mix this brown with more dry lock, painted some coats on it, ended up painting quite a bit more coats on it before I got to the color that I wanted. So in this clip, I show you how there's still little spots, that gaps and cracks looks like a sponge to me. No matter what I would do, it just still had little holes in it. So I ended up painting it with a little bit of Mod Podge. Here I am showing you all the different holes. It seems like no matter what, there's still little tiny pieces that are exposed. So this did seem to help a little bit by sealing it somewhat. I put coats of the Mod Podge like all over there. Finally, I got to mixing the color. Still mixing into the dry lock, the white dry lock, with some different terracotta colors I found at the good old Hobby Lobby. So you can see here, I'm trying to just do like a little dry, basically brush on it. I ended up painting it with a lot more coverage later on, as you'll see. But this, oh, that looks just beautiful right there. I ended up covering over it later, but it definitely looks really nice. Just a little bit on there. So here you can see what I'm doing, adding all that terracotta over that dark brown. After hours and hours, you can see that I'm almost done covering the whole thing with the terracotta color. I liked it like this, but it also seemed a little too distracting to leave that darker brown or black coming through, so I did paint it a little bit more. You can see here how it's a pretty red color, a lot red, more red than I thought it was gonna be, a little bit brighter. It's, you know, a lot of red, but I decided to tone it down a little bit with some lighter brown, which I do think helped tone it down so it's not as bright, which I was pretty happy with the color where it ended up being. You can also see here I should have taped all of those branches so that I didn't have to then Dremel all of the paint off the branches, because that was also really annoying at the end. So definitely should have done some more prep work with the branches. But yeah, you can see how it did tone it down here. I think I back up a little bit in the camera. It does look a lot better, so I'm happy with that. Here I am starting to seal the finished product. I wanted to make sure it was more waterproof than even the dry lock. I liked the matte finish, which is why I found this polyacrylic by Minwax, because it was more of a matte finish. In the end, I did go over this with some other items as well. I found there's a spray form and then a painting form of it, but it's called shellac, which apparently is completely non-toxic when it's done. So I ended up spraying some of that on there just because I had looked up on some Facebook groups that this polyacrylic may give off some sort of chemicals for a little bit. So I wanted to make sure it was safe for my bearded dragon. So I did use a little bit of that shellac as well, which made it look a little more shinier. But again, I wanted to make sure nothing was gonna happen when I put him in there. And here I am showing all the plants in there that I was gonna put in after I was done. Here I am with the substrate. So I decided on Repti sand and Repti soil as the main mix. It's kind of like going to Home Depot and getting the topsoil and the play sand, which is a lot cheaper than what I ended up doing. I just heard you had to sift through a lot of the topsoil, and I didn't really want any surprises in there. I don't know if there'd be bugs in it or something. I just wanted to make sure that I got the right stuff. I didn't have any problems, so I just bit the bullet and got the more expensive stuff. I believe in this video as well, you will see, besides the Repti sand, I did add on top the Australian soil mix as well, which gives it more of the color like the rock work I had in there, and that stuff's supposedly really good for bearded dragons because it's actually from Australia. As far as the sand, I know there's a lot of mixed opinions on using sand for bearded dragons, but you know, they are from the desert. I think it's just the calcium sand you don't want to use, or the crushed walnut shells and stuff like that. those are the things I've heard that are not good. And I've had pretty good luck with this. I've never had an issue with him, and it's important that he's able to dig and walk through a closer environment than he'd have in the wild. In the next few clips, you'll see me adding different plants. All of these plants are something that bearded dragons can consume. I had a lot of fun going to this little succulent garden and buying probably way too many varieties of succulents to put them in here. I know that's a donkey tail. I can't remember what every single thing is called. I think the other one was sedum. I also have some air plants in here. But yeah, I wanted plants in here. I wanted the green. It actually worked out really well. You'll see at the end that the green and that reddish color, you know, green and red are complementary colors, so it really kind of popped out. So here I am gluing the air plants on with a E6000 glue. I think I had to weight that down because it just wouldn't stay by itself. This part, it looks really good at first, but since it's by the heat lamp and that's where he laid, I'm gonna have to come up with something else. I may end up having to cover those two spots up, but for the time being, it was really nice looking, but because it's right there, the plants didn't do so well and it kept knocking them out. So I may have to alter that later on. Maybe, you never know, maybe I'll do an update on the changes I've made. But yeah, those didn't end up staying there, but the rest of them all are in there. I glued that plant over there, same thing with the E6000 glue, little air plants. All I do is mist them every so often, and then they're all right. But eventually they will pass and I'll have to get some new ones. Now this is the sand I was mentioning before. I finished off the top layer with the Australian desert sand, which is pretty expensive actually. It's like $60, but it looks really good. So it really made it pop as well with the colors, and I think it's good for him to dig around in and everything. I may end up getting a little bit more to place on top of some of the rocks up higher, just so he has more of the substrate up there. And that's just me applying it all in there. Here you can finally see the finished product. We have some elephant bush. I got a little tree, little bonsai. I have a variegated prickly pear cactus. I think it's the spineless, hopefully. Some other little succulents in there as well. In the back you can see there's a little piece of wood holding up one of their air plants that I move later. But yeah, this is the final product. Here is Scales. He is sitting there kind of looking around. I had actually put him in the enclosure here and there, fed him in there a little bit before this was all set up, so it's not a complete shock for him to be in there. I think he actually tastes one of the pieces, one of the leaves of the elephant bush there. So he's kind of starting to investigate, starting to get a little bit comfortable. So pretty exciting that he got to go in there. So this clip, you can see just how well those lights make these colors pop at night. During the day I got more reflection in the glass, but at night, man, it looks so good. So happy with the results on this build. I wish I had a snake. I would do this again. You can see him exploring his enclosure a little bit. I think in the next one you actually see that he's going into the cork round. He's kind of sleeping in there a little bit, so he's utilizing his new enclosure. And in the last video, you'll see just an updated, that's the very most updated video I have, where some of the plants by the heat lamp, I'm gonna have to probably exchange those out for like an air plant. But otherwise, it was fun building this, and hopefully I can post another one again in the future.